Living Seed Media brings to you God's Word, which is His comprehensive equipment for changing lives. May the Lord impact your heart as you encounter His Word. For further inquiry or counsel, contact Peace House, P.O. Box 971, Boko, Benue State, Nigeria. Telephone numbers 0703 0363659, 0703 7681198. Email address lsmedia@livingseed.org, or visit our website at www.livingseed.org. Let us sit back and listen as the servant of God brings forth the word of life.
We are beginning to go to where you picked us again. Lord, we are excited. Lord, we thank you. Lord, our excitement is because we have another word in view. We know that we have a better inheritance in the heavens. Lord, we are grateful to you. Lord, tonight as we go on again, learning how to live and how to labor for eternity, we're asking that the light of the truth will dawn on our hearts again. In Jesus' name. Tonight, we will be going on where we stopped. We've been looking at living and laboring for eternity. And this morning we began to study some biblical principles of preparing and of securing a correct place in eternity. And we just began to look at some few simple familiar scriptures, but which, if we will take time to understand very well, it will help us. Though living in this world, we will be living with a clear purpose. But one thing I said that I feel the Holy Ghost will want us to keep putting in our mind, so that when you live here, if you want to summarize many of the things we have said, you can put it in that one sentence. That everything that we have or we are here on earth, they are given to us in order for us to be able to secure a correct placement where? In eternity. So tonight, I want to go from where we stopped. You know, we stopped from the book of Luke chapter 12. Do you remember that's where we stopped? Let me refresh your mind as I ask you to return back to Luke 12. Luke 12. And by God's grace, we are not studying it again. But I just wish to put something together as a take-up, as the Lord will help us. Tonight, I will be looking at the principles of living and of laboring for eternity, just as we started in the morning. I'm hoping we can illustrate it with some few brothers who demonstrated that kind of understanding in their own lives. My prayer is that heaven will open our own eyes in Jesus' name. Now, look at verse 32. Luke 12:32. And this time, verse 32. Little flock. For it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Now, I want to note one other matter. That the world system, the temporary, ephemeral world system uses to intimidate those who want to live for eternity. Can I tell you? They want to intimidate you with their bogusness. They want to intimidate you with their size. Do you know that it is a human psychology to think that majority must be correct? Eh? Do you know that it's a natural psychology to think that something is correct because it is big? Something is right because it is bogus. Something is good because many people are going there. So many times, the world system tries to intimidate and obscure eternity from your eyes. I've started looking at Luke chapter 12, and I began with verse 32. Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Sell that you have and give alms. Provide yourselves bags which wax not old, a treasure in the heavens that faileth not, where no thief approaches, neither moth corrupted. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. Let your loins be girded about, and your lights burning, and you yourselves like unto men that wait for their Lord, when he will return from the wedding, that when he cometh and knocketh, they may open unto him immediately. Blessed are those servants whom the Lord, when he cometh, shall find watching. Verily I say unto you, that he shall guard himself, and make them to sit down to meat, and he will come forth and serve them. Hallelujah. I began to say that one of the tricks of the world system is to intimidate those who are living for eternity with their sheer size. Sometimes your mind feels as if, look, we are minority because we are few. And so quietly, you are thinking that majority must be correct. You are imagining that majority must be right. Several times, you think that the broad way must be real. But I want to quickly say a few things tonight in order to help you to live appropriately for eternity. I want you to note one thing. That the bogus is not necessarily big. Eh? What did I say? It's not necessarily big. In the world system, there is what we call the level. How many of you remember yeast? You know yeast? The one we used on bread. When you put a little yeast on a flour, what does it do? It rises and becomes, it will bloat and become big. But when you touch it, and you just put your finger in it, what happens? It will collapse. If you decide to squeeze it back to size, what do you discover? I'm hearing you, I'm not hearing you. You realize that it's very small. I want to inform you tonight, may God help you to understand that the world system is actually not as big as it imposes itself. Actually, it's because in the world system, one of the things that they are very, very keen at using is level. The world system, what did I say about it? They use level. I met a man I think about 3 years ago, either 3 or 4 years. Now it will be 4 years now. I met a man. And we met somewhere in Botswana. And he didn't know that he has written me a letter inviting me for a meeting some years ago. But when I prayed, the Lord told me that there is nothing there. So I didn't go. But the letter was so impressive. The presentation was powerful. In fact, the way it was done, if you pick it in your heart, you will believe that it is something that is very, very important. But you know, when I prayed, the Lord said, there is nothing there. It took me a lot of courage to believe God that what looks so good, so bogus, so international, that there is nothing there. It was difficult. But having come to obey, I've learned the obedience of the Spirit of God. Even when it does not look reasonable to me, I put it aside. Only to get to Botswana, and we met the man. When we met the man, as soon as I saw his name, I remember the letters. I remember the big, you know, sometimes you receive a letter that is gold-plated. If somebody wants to show you that he has an important ministry, does he use ordinary white paper to do his letterhead? How does he do it? He will look for one of these very, very costly papers. Some of you know it. Very shiny, well decorated, and it will be embossed, and it will be shiny. So when we met the man, he didn't know. I think he was in the meeting and the Holy Spirit affected him. Then he ran to me. I was just introducing very simple principles of the Word of God into this meeting, which brought people from different parts of Africa. And so he said, Pastor Gbile. I said, yes. He said, I want you to be my pastor. I need a pastor. The things you are saying, I have not heard this before, and that's the need of my life. You are dealing with the issues in my life. I said, okay, let's go to your room. So we sat in the hotel. We were chatting. So as he was talking and telling me stories of his life and the need and all of this, suddenly his name clicked with the letter I had received. I asked him, I said, excuse me, are you behind or are you part of something international leadership for something? He laughed. He laughed. I love the man because he was a sincere man. You know what he said to me? He said, all of that thing is in this my computer. He said, there is no office anywhere. My bedroom is the international office that I was advertising. You see, unless God helps you to understand the world system, you will never put it aside and labor for eternity. Constantly, God is helping me to see the emptiness of the world. You see, I think the world, they are regretting that a man like me is alive. Because I have seen them now. I have known their trick. There's nothing they are bringing that is new. It's the same principle. You know what they did? He said he lost his job. So he sat down and he said, what can I do now to make it? So an idea just came to his mind. Put together an international conference on discipleship and leadership. It was a powerful conference. So he began to look for names, important names, anywhere. He was putting names. And then he wrote letters. He told me he went and met this other big man, this other big man. He said, look, this is an important international conference that have been put together. And if you don't identify with this, it will mean that you have denied what we know you to preach for the past 50 years. And besides, this is going to give credence to your ministry. So he said he got this big name that all of us respect to sign the letter. He went to another one. That one signed the letter. So when he got them, he put their names on the brochure that these are the international speakers. If you got a letter and somebody wrote the name of Billy Graham, John Stott, important people that they are going to speak in an international conference, and that you have been invited, having been considered in your country as one of the most important people, what will you do? Your head will swell, isn't it? You say, oh, that's an international invitation. Except you know the world, you will never be free from their hand. So when he got all of them, he called the printer. He said, he told the printer, look, I don't have money to pay you. But if you print something of first class quality, and I am able to gather people, then as they are paying, then I will say to you. Do you know there are so many brothers that are doing ministry on credit? They know what I'm talking about. So he said, they will. So when people, once they saw the name of this big man, they saw the name of that big man, people began to register. According to him, he said, when people registered, some money began to come in. He said as soon as money began to come in, even before the conference gathered, he had quickly taken half of the money to settle his own personal problem. And then he paid half of the money to the printer. Then the conference started. He said, Gbile, I'm telling you, I don't know anything about discipleship. All I did, I just got this one, I got this one, I got this one, I put them together. I said, let them be knocking their head. The young man told me, he said, right now, they invite me in Singapore, they invite me here, invite me there, come and deal with international conference on leadership and discipleship. Now, when you see the world system, it is part of their principle, listen to me, to exaggerate. Leaven, are you hearing me? Leaven, yeast is the principle of the world. So, many times, the world system wants to sell by blowing what is not big. And so sometimes, when you look at yourself, because we don't use yeast in eternity. Friend, there is no yeast in eternity. Did you hear me? There is no hypocrisy in eternity. Eternity has nothing to do with exaggeration. Eternity does not impress anybody. Eternity is constant, so it doesn't need to impress you. Eternity is eternal, so it doesn't need to tell you something that you will not see tomorrow. Whatever it tells you now is there forever. So, but the world system, they will love to impress you. Do you know that as we are sitting here, As we're sitting here, if the world system is going to report this meeting, if they want to report this meeting, if they were going to take the photograph of this meeting and they are going to flash it, how will they flash it? They will flash it in multiples. They will say, everybody stand up, everybody stand up. I want all of you to stand up now. Now lift up your two hands and wave it like this, and wave it, and wave it like this. Do you know that by the time 200 people are doing what? Then you tell the cameraman to do what? To focus on them. When they take a section of that, when people do like this, you will be thinking that the crowd that is there, they are 2,000. Do you understand? So sometimes when we go for meeting, and you see the evangelist, so all of you right now, wave, 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 right now, wave now, bring out your handkerchief and wave, hallelujah, hallelujah. He has told the cameraman. We know it, we know it. We know it. So the cameraman zooms, then he goes and then he stand up. And then by the time the thing comes up, you say, car. 20,000 people were there. That's the world. The world system, it is part of their system. They are not trying to do any new thing. That is how they do their own thing. The world system intimidates the children of the kingdom by imposing sheer size. But the size that you are talking about here is not real. It's exaggerated size. Are you getting me now? It is size that had been bloated. Bloated. So, here the word of God begins to say, little flock, fear not. Jesus took time to prepare the mind of all of us to be able to live for eternity. He said, broad is the way that leads to where? That leads to destruction. And how many are working on it? Many there be that are trooping on it. But narrow is the way that leads to life. Few there be that does what? That find it. I want to suggest to you, if you want to labor for eternity, if you want to live for eternity, don't be intimidated with the size, the bogusness of the world system. Bogus, but not real. Bloated, but empty. Loud, but empty. So the size must not put you away from focusing on what we are saying. Are you hearing me? Don't be intimidated and say, but we are not many. Actually, the kingdom of God does not depend on size. It's quality. What did I say? Quality. When I studied the word of God, I found that God does not fight his battle with many. It doesn't matter to him whether you are many or you are few. He fights his battle by his own spirit. So the first instruction tonight says, fear not, little flock. It is your Father's pleasure to do what? To give you the kingdom. I am excited to say to you that it is our Father's pleasure to do what? To give us the kingdom. When they say it's your Father's pleasure, oh, It is that God himself is excited. God himself is longing to bring you into this kingdom reality. But we have noted, he said, sell all that you have in order to buy that field. That's where we stopped in the afternoon. We have said that everything that we have on the face of the earth is not meant to be consumed where? On the earth. It was a capital for you to buy that field. Did you understand to that point? Can I now go on for tonight? Can I move on from there for tonight? Praise the Lord. Now, we will begin tonight by taking another parable or a story that Jesus Christ gave. Yes, a story. Chapter 16 of Luke. I want you to quickly go with me to chapter 16 of Luke. When you get to chapter 16 of Luke, we read another familiar story, but it's dealing with the principle of living for eternity. It's a principle, but the master has put it as a story. In verse 1, he said also to his disciples, there was a certain rich man which had a steward, and the same was accused to him that he had wasted his goods. He called him and said to him, how is it that I hear this of you? Give an account of your stewardship, for thou mayest no longer be steward. Then the steward said within himself, what shall I do? For my Lord takes away from me the stewardship. I cannot dig, and to beg I am ashamed. I am resolved what to do. Now listen, we have used this story to illustrate different issues. We have used it to learn stewardship. We have used it to illustrate how to maintain ourselves in the service that God has given us. But tonight, I wanted us to look at the quiet wisdom that the unjust steward was employing, which the Lord Jesus Christ commended. Please note, the commendation is not about the wicked servant. The commendation is not about how he cheated, but the commendation is about the wisdom he employed. There was a principle he employed that the master wanted us to look at. Now look at this. The man said, I am resolved what to do, that when I am put out of the stewardship, they may receive me into their houses. What is that? What was that man doing now? He was planning. For when? For the future. He was saying, I know what I'm holding here will soon go. But what do I do to secure a place for myself on the other side? So what did he decide to do? I'm resolved what to do. So he called every one of his Lord's debtors unto him. And he said unto the first, how much owest thou unto my Lord? And that one said, 100 measures of oil. And he said to him, take your bill, sit down quickly, and write 50. Now, let me ask you, what do you think that man should have done? Naturally. What do you think he will have done? What will he have done? He will have said, are you owing 100 naira? Something? He said, yes. Do you know that if you give me something, I can cancel your debt and we will sign that you are paid. Eh? But do you know what the man said? Don't give me anything. Don't give me anything. I don't need anything from you now. The only thing I want to help you. Let's reduce your debt. Eh? I don't know why my master has allowed your interest to increase so much. Let's cancel it. Write 50 now. Make I sign. It's only 50 you are owed. That man said, hey, you mean you don't want to? No. I don't need anything. Meanwhile, he had not yet told the man that I'm going to be taken away from here. Are you understanding? So he did all of that as if he didn't have an eye on the future. He called another one. How much do you owe my Lord? That one said, it's 80. He said, 80? Oh? Then, no, 100. He said, okay. Said to him, take your bill and write 80. When he did, those people felt indebted to him. Abi, they kept feeling that he has helped them. When they suddenly heard that he has lost his job, tell me how they felt. They say, yeah, our Messiah in that office, why did they sack him? The last time he was passing, a criminal, but he was now what? An hero. As he was passing, they were saying, you helped us. He said, well, you know, because I tried to be gentle to people, the man came and fired me. He fired you? So where are you now? I don't really have a place. He just ejected me forcefully from my house. I have nowhere yet. In fact, my load are on the corridor now. Your load on the corridor? Please bring it. Come and stay with us. We thank you for the way you helped us. Did you understand it? What did they do? Instead of eating what they could have given him that time, what did they do? He invested it. For when? For the future. Now, let's read the commendation from our master. The Lord now said, and the Lord commended the unjust steward because he has done wisely. For the children of this world are in their generation what? Wiser than the children of light. Now, if the master stopped there, I would simply not have anything to say. But in verse 9, I saw Jesus Christ now drawing a very important issue. He said, and I say to you, do what? Make to yourselves friends of the mammon of unrighteousness, that when you fail, they may receive you into what? Everlasting habitations. That's one of the very difficult Bible verses to talk about. When you read it on the surface, you will say, what is he saying? But I want you to know, what is the master saying? Because he said, and I say unto you. In verse 8 he had said, the children of this world, in their generation, they are wiser than the children of light. Do you know that the children of this world, they believe in investment? Do they believe in investment? Do they practice investment? Do they practice investment? Do you know that there are some people here as I'm talking who are already thinking that in the next 5 years, when this camp becomes very functional, that there are going to be business opportunities. When people are coming here, they will be buying food, they will be doing everything. Do you know what they have done? Now that the land is very, very cheap, what are they doing now? They have bought the land. As you are coming, you will notice that some people have already tried to fence some place. There's nothing there now. The villagers are not thinking. As far as they are concerned, make him take it. He's fencing it. There's nothing he's going to do there. He's waiting for this place to do what? To appreciate. Then he will start selling the land. Even the indigenous, they will come back and buy the land from his hand at a very exorbitant price. Am I correct? That's the children of this world. They are wise. They believe in investment. They don't want to eat what they have today. They prefer to do what? To leave it for a future that they are hoping for. Now, the Lord Jesus began to speak about how to live for eternity. And I'm hearing him saying, make for yourself what? Friends of the mammon of unrighteousness. Now, I said the passage is generally looking difficult because you will think that Jesus is saying, be friendly with the mammon of unrighteousness. That's not what he's saying. I wish somebody who has a loud voice will read for us from NIV that verse 9 very quickly. If you carry NIV, can you read very quickly for me with a loud voice? I tell you.
Use worldly words.
Oh my God. Too many voices.
I tell you.
Oh God.
Use worldly words to gain friends for yourselves, so that when it is gone, you will be welcomed into eternal dwellings.
I tell you, use worldly words to do what? To gain friends for yourselves, so that when it is gone, you will be welcomed into eternal dwellings. Who carries Good News or Old Living Bible? Where's Jato's Old Living Bible? Is anybody carrying Good News? Yes.
To say, and so I tell you.
And so I tell you.
Make friends for yourself with worldly wealth.
With worldly wealth.
So that when it gives out.
When it gives out.
You will be welcomed in the eternal home.
You will be welcomed in the eternal home. So, Old Living Bible. Yes, sir. Did you see what I'm saying to you now? Living Bible decided to turn it and say, are you sure that's what I wanted to do? Now, what the general scripture is dealing with is that Jesus is drawing an illustration from a seemingly wrong thing, but that is applying a right principle. Are you understanding? The principle that is being used is correct, but it is being applied to do what? A wrong thing. Now, what Jesus begins to say is this, that just as that man what he has. As at the time when he knew that, I don't have this stewardship again, it will soon be gone from my hand. Let me use this position to do what? To secure a place. I want to secure a place when I will be thrown out. So what did he do? He used his position. He didn't collect anything that time. He was investing it. And so we hear the master say, what you have now, use it to secure an eternal dwelling. And while we are checking the consistency of how to live for eternity, I want you to note that what we need to secure a proper placement in eternity is what we have presently and how do you employ it. Where do you invest it? So Jesus now went ahead and began to say, he that is faithful in that which is least is also faithful in what? In that which is much. He that is unjust in the least is unjust also in much. If therefore you have not been faithful in the unrighteous mammon, who will commit to your trust? But wants to prepare a man to gain a place in eternity, he gives him something. And he watches what you do with what he has put in your hand. God is insisting and expecting that because eternity, we can only invest in it here, and it's be waiting for you there. You must use your present opportunities, your present position, your present talents, your present income, your present wisdom, and your present time here on earth in order to buy for yourself and to fatten your purse out there. So Jesus laid 3 issues where we need to learn how to prepare for eternity. Number 1, in that which is least, in that which God is allowing you to touch and it looks little in your eyes, he wanted you to invest that little so that God can regard you as a man that he can entrust with much when we get over there. Even when God increases your income or your position or your wisdom here on earth, what is he increasing it for? What is he increasing it for? For further investment. When God enlarges your circle of influence here on earth, he is not enlarging your circle of influence so that you can be ordinarily influential on earth. What is he expecting you to do with your influence? What does he want you to do with your influence? Sell it. Invest it in order for eternity to have something to keep for you. I pray that you are understanding. Are you understanding? When you become the principal of a secondary school, why does God want you to be a principal of a secondary school? Why? So that you will employ that position to do what? To invest in what is eternal. How I imagine that some of you are a principal, people come to look for you because their children are needing admission left and right. And do you know, as principal, when people are in need, they will listen to you. Will they listen to you? If they came to your office and they are talking and talking, I say, oh, welcome, sit down. But let's pray first. Will they refuse to pray? They say it's not a matter of prayer. Will they say that? What will they do? They will pray, they will comply. And when you finish, you now said, thank you very much. Is it concerning your son that you are looking for admission? He said, please help us. And you said, we are looking into that. However, I think that this boy doesn't look qualified. He said, we actually know. Can I advise you to arrange private coaching for that boy, so that by this time next year, we will be reserving a place for him if he passes? Have you compromised your faith yet? But do you know something has happened? What has happened? You have secured a friend. By the time the man is going to say, well, even the way he talks to me, he treats me as a human being. He understands with me. The other place we went, we sat there. He didn't even know who is sitting there. Next time, do you know that you are having an opportunity to send somebody to heaven? You are preparing for eternity. So the Lord said, why are the children of this world wiser than the sons and the daughters of the kingdom of God? Why do they know how to invest, and the children of God does not know how to prepare for their own everlasting home? Why the word of God was going on? It was in the same place that the master was speaking, and he brought the story of Lazarus and the rich man. You know, we referred to it, I think 2 days ago. Do you remember we referred to Lazarus and the rich man? Do you remember? Do you remember that the same principle that we were looking at is that the rich man did not prepare for eternity. He consumed all that he had here on earth. And they said, sorry sir. In fact, they said, remember that you in your lifetime, you have received, you have consumed, and you have finished all your good things. You left nothing here, not as much as a tip, a drop of water. And the man was in torment until now. Even as we are talking, he didn't prepare for eternity. So, 2 things that we have said so far that we want to tie together before I now take all the illustrations was that each time God wants to transfer your treasure from down here to heaven in preparing for eternity, he asks you to do what? To invest. The word we have been using, sell all that you have and give to those that are in need, that you may have treasure. Where? In heaven. When the rich young ruler came to Jesus, do you remember the rich young ruler? Do you remember him? What did Jesus tell him? After he said, have you kept all the commandments? And the man said, yes, all these things I've always done since my youth. The master looking at him, the Bible said he loved him. He now said to him, one thing thou lackest. And the man said, what is that thing, sir? The master said, go. And do what? Sell all that you have. And do what? And give them to the poor, to those who are in need. Do you know that when he said it, there was a quiet clause that he has added? What was that clause? Let's read it. Please turn to the book. Praise the Lord. I think you can pick it from either Mark 10, or Matthew 19. Let's go to Mark 10 and see. And if it is not so clear, we can take it from Matthew 19. Mark 10. Are you in Mark 10? Look at verse 21. Who will read 21 for me? Said to him, one thing thou lackest. Go your way.
Say whatsoever thou hast.
Say whatsoever thou hast.
And give to the poor.
Give to the poor.
And thou shalt have treasure in heaven.
Did you note that now? And you shall do what? Have treasure in heaven. Then go on reading, sir.
And thou have 21. And thou shalt have treasure in heaven. And come, take up the cross and follow me.
Praise the Lord.
Hallelujah.
So verse 22, what happened to the man?
He was sad at that saying.
He was sad at that saying.
And went away grieved.
He went away grieved.
For he had great possessions.
Oh God. Now let me go on and show you what Jesus said. And Jesus looked round about and he said to his disciples, how hardly shall they that have riches enter into where? Enter into where? Into the kingdom of God. How hardly. The disciples were astonished at his words. But Jesus answered again and said unto them, children, how hard is it for them that does what? That trust in riches to enter into the kingdom of God. It is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter into the kingdom of God. Are we saying that every rich man will not enter the kingdom of God? No, that's not what we are saying. But any man that trusts, he put his hope, he put his confidence in his riches that he has laid up here and did not transfer to heaven. He has nothing to go to heaven to get. He is not looking forward there because there's nothing there for him. I remember that I was teaching when Udoji bonus was declared. Do you remember Udoji? There will be few of you that know about Udoji. Very few. There was a Udoji bonus. And those that have worked for several years, when they calculated the increment and all the bonus, all the surplus, it was big. But those of us that have not put in any number of years, there is Udoji bonus, but it didn't mean much to us. So I remember talking to one of my colleagues. I said, "Kai, congratulations, Udoji." He said, "It doesn't concern me." I said, "Why?" He said, "It's only these old teachers that will get something. People like us, you don't have anything. There's nothing." So I discovered that even in the midst of excitement, some people will not be excited. Why would they not be excited? They have nothing there. Are you hearing me? We are told that some people will enter heaven as though they passed through fire. There's nothing there. Everything they did is what fire can consume because it's of the earth. The questions that I want you to seriously consider tonight: why was that rich man going away sorrowfully? Because he didn't see the treasure in heaven. Do you hear me? Why was the instruction so difficult for him? As far as he is concerned, how can I discharge? But what God is telling him is not that he will lose. Is he telling him to lose? He said, give so that you may have treasures in heaven. But because he couldn't see it, how could he rejoice? He had to be sad. The messages we are bringing now, except you see the treasures in the glory land, it will make you sad. You will be saying to yourself, Kai, this is a hard saying, who can bear it? But I'm telling you, for those of us that have seen the glory, if there's any little thing I can do, and heaven will credit it to my account, I will be glad to do it. Will you be glad to do it? Will you? The Lord helps you in the name of Jesus. Now, we will take two people. Very short, no long talk about them. Who responded to what we are talking about. And their response is what I want us to conclude tonight with. They were men that have now understood what does it mean to live for that which is eternal. Praise the Lord. Now let's take the first man. No, we won't take the first man. Let's take the first lady. Let's take a lady. The lady we want to talk about very briefly was Sister Mary. Mary of Bethany. Do you remember Mary of Bethany? The Mary, the junior sister of Martha. Do you remember Martha? She did something that became eternal on her behalf. Turn your Bibles. I think you can check it from John 12. The story appears in different places. John 12. It also appears in Matthew, I think 26. It appears in Mark. But I think we can just take it from John 12. Can we take it from John 12? We can go back to Matthew later on, but I just draw this. Verse 3. Then took Mary a what? A pound of ointment of spikenard, very costly. And he anointed the feet of Jesus and wiped his feet with her hair. And the house was filled with the odor of the ointment. Then says one of his disciples, Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, which should betray him, why was not this ointment sold for 300 pence and given to the poor? Now, when he said that, that would look like the kind of thing we have been saying. Am I right? it will look like the kind of teaching that the Lord gave the rich young man, the kind of teaching he gave them in the book of Luke 12. But we want you to see that when we're talking about living and preparing for eternity, we are not talking about doing philanthropic work. Are you hearing me? When we are talking about living and preparing for eternity, we are not talking about doing an ordinary social service. We want you to note that eternity, the eternity we are talking about here, has to deal with what you do for Jesus, what you do on Jesus, and what Jesus Christ had been able to accomplish in your own life. The Bible said, this man said, why was this ointment not sold for 300 pence and given to the poor? He said this, not that he cared for the poor. But why did he say it? Because he was a thief. He had the bag. And what did the Bible say he normally does? He normally bear what was put therein. He normally help himself with the church money. He will be advocating for poor because before the money reaches the poor, he will have shared it. But here was Jesus responding to that. And it was that response that is mattering to me. Then Jesus said, leave her alone. Against the day of my burying, as she kept this. For the poor, always you have with you. But me, you have not always. Will you check for me Mark 14 or Matthew 26, and let's conclude the comment of the Master. Praise the Lord. In Mark 14, Jesus responded to that accusation. Why was he not sold for 300 pence and being given to the poor? They murmured against her. Verse 6. And Jesus said, do what? Leave her alone. Why trouble you her? She has wrought what? A good work on me. For you have the poor with you always. And whensoever you will, you may do them good. But me, you don't have always. She has done what she could. She has come aforehand to anoint my body to the burying. Verily I say unto you, wheresoever this gospel shall be preached throughout the whole world, this also that she has done shall be what? Shall be spoken for, or for a memorial of her, wherever the gospel is preached. Did you see a sister? What did she use to secure an eternal inheritance for herself? An alabaster box of ointment. Can I ask you, how else could she have used it? She could have used it for herself, like other sisters have used their own. She could have sprayed it on herself, and she would be smelling nicely on the earth, and she would have been looking important for a while. But what would have happened about her? Tell me. Shall we have forgotten or remembered her? We'll have forgotten about her. As far as we are concerned, how many women have used perfume and nobody knows anything about them? But she took a decision that looks very unique. She said, instead of pouring it on myself, I will pour it on the Lord. It was just an alabaster box. What is the cost if she decided to sell it for ordinary things on the earth? How much? 300 pence. How long will they spend 300 pence before it finishes? I'm not hearing you. That very day they will have finished it. Not only that they will have finished it, there is a man that will have finished it. Who was the man that will have finished it? A thief. A thief. The first thing I'm asking you to think about tonight before we pray, do you know that if you don't invest your life for Jesus, it will still be used? You are not hearing me. Do you know that this life you are carrying, if you don't invest it for eternity, it will still be used? Do you understand? Will it be used? Tell me who will likely use it. The world system will use it. The government will use it. Am I right? There's something I want you to think about before you pray tonight. Do you know that when you were on level 4, how much is level 4? In the days when we were earning level 4, it was 94 naira. That is after Udoji has added to our own, 94 naira. It used to be 17 pounds 10 before. So when Udoji came, it came to 94, level 4. I don't know what it is now. Is it up to 5,000 now? Oh, it's 6,000. You are making great progress. Praise the Lord. Now let me ask a question. Do you ever think that your eating essentially changes? That the quantity of food your stomach can take, it increases with your age? We are being practical here. As you are growing older, you eat more. What do you notice as you are growing older? You eat less. I want to show you something about the world. Do you know that as you are growing older, you can't eat more? In fact, if you are in your house, those of us that have become parents, your children that are between 13 and 19, when you are dishing food out to them, what do you feel? Tell me, what do you feel? Did you see that when they are coming to take rice, how do they take? And they will finish it. But you that their mother, how much rice do you take before your stomach is full? Just a little. You need to ask questions. Do you know that when you are young, you ate more? You consumed more of what you earn. At least you are the one that ate most of what you earned, and it was wonderful. But when you grow older, even if you are earning 50,000, I still tell you the truth is that you can't eat even what you used to eat when you were young. You will eat less out of your 50,000. But then, do you understand? As soon as your salary increases, That's what you don't know about the world. Immediately, the mouth that will come and consume it, what will happen? It increases. Essentially, do you know that you are living for people? You don't know. You need to know. Do you know that you are living for people? This your life. If you don't pour it on Jesus and secure an eternal memorial for yourself in eternity, it will still be used. But it will be used by people that will not pay you back, whether you like it or not. When you get bundles of money, I have always watched in the world system and I hate it. I think Brother Solomon discovered it earlier after he has spent his own life in foolishness. And he began to raise questions in the book of Ecclesiastes. He began to say, what is even worth? Vanity. He said he gathers, but he does not know who will spend it. He said the more a man has, the more the mouth that will consume it. He said even this also is frustration and vanity. And I was looking at that man that he discovered it too late in his lifetime. He was talking when he has finally regretted. Do you know, my friend, if you build a very big mansion in your village and you put it there and you are living in Onitsha or you are living in Lagos, who will use that house? Rats, lizards. Even when you wash and you put covering cloth, you can't come back in 2 weeks and still sleep on the bed you spread 2 weeks ago. As soon as you enter, something tells you, how can you lie down here? Go and lie down in the parlor first. Let them clear things. Who used it? Rats, cockroaches. They rejoice, they say, we thank God. This foolish man, he has provided us a nice bed. Make him be building for us. Foolish man. Do you know that as rats, rodents, wild gecko, and all of those things, as they are jumping around on the bed and everything, including your cupboard, they are not praising you. You know what they are saying? Foolish man. Foolish man. Foolish man. He thinks he's doing something. He doesn't know it's for us. And when he comes here now, he will start chasing us about. Foolish man. Do you know, as soon as you come, instead of resting your head, what will you first do? You start chasing wild gecko, you chase cockroach, you chase this. They say, what are you doing? If you don't want us to stay here, why did you put this thing here? You're a foolish man. If you had distributed this thing, instead of building a big gigantic mansion, if you have built two rooms, and you look at people in the village that don't have where to lay their head, and say, please stay here, stay here, stay here. Cockroach is asking you, do you think we will have come there? What gecko is asking you, do you think we will have stayed there? And they will have been praying for you every day. They will have been thanking God for you every day. They will have been remembering you and say, God, wherever this man is, please help him, bless him. We don't know his own children in the future. Let them meet those who will help them in the name of Jesus. Do you know what they are doing? They are sending your credit to where? To heaven. Foolish man. Cockroach don't pray for you. War gecko, they hate you. You know why they hate you? Where they are found as a place to rest. As soon as you come now, you start chasing them up and down, chasing them up and down, chasing them up and down. So they will go and hide and say, make him just finish what he's doing now. We will take over again. Foolish man. War gecko calls you foolish. Cockroach abuses you every day. It's because you are not hearing their voice. And human beings that have been in need, that you lock up, you lock them out, they are also cursing you. Every time they are passing, they look at it. Look at a man. He put this thing here. Look at, he bury money here. And me, I'm suffering. What kind of life is this? Instead of them to say, Father, thank you for this man, they say, what kind of life is this? Each time they see what you have done, they remember their anger. And they are, because of you, they are sending strange words to heaven and say, look at this man. I want to ask you. When that Sister Mary brought her alabaster box and broke it, what was she doing, please? She was investing into what? Eternity. I want to ask you tonight, what will you do with your life? What are you doing with your life? Where are you investing your life? In that which is eternal, or in that which will soon be forgotten? The day I knew the world system, you know, the world system, they have disappointed me. I thank God. I served government for some years. I served them. I worked day and night. I used to give lectures to my students, sometimes all night. Sometimes I will gather students and say, tonight we are doing IVG, because I want you to know this thing, and everybody is happy with me. Sometimes I will spend my personal things to organize something for my students and for the college. The day I was resigning from the college to go and serve the Lord, what did the world system give me? Number one, the college did not remember to give me anything. I was chasing what they call certificate of service. And I went over and over and over and over and over and over. There was this reluctant registrar in the college that said, Mr. Akanni, come again next week. Come again next time. Come again next time. Come again next time. The day I finally went, they gave me paper that was rolled out with a duplicating sheet. Are you hearing me? They put a letterheaded on a duplicating paper, and the typist that typed even made mistake, and the thing was not clear. And as I was collecting this, the Holy Spirit spoke sharply to me. If you have served the world longer, this is still all they will have given you. That day again, while I was disappointed in the world, I began to rejoice. I began to say, thank you, Jesus, for calling me. Now I am doing something that heaven will not but reward me for. Hallelujah. My department, they wanted to honor their head of department. They gathered. They were being magnanimous, and I thank God for them. What did they do? They brought a bottle, a crate of Coke. They said, Mr. Akanni, we know you will not take beer. So they brought a crate of Coke. And they brought wall clock. That is all to commemorate my service of many years. Thank God I did not serve them till pensionable age. And because I have seen pensioners. I have seen pensioners lining up in the sun. I went to Benin some years to preach. And where I was preaching was also where pensioners were lining up to, because they said there are ghost pensioners now. So you see old people, they line up like this from morning. As I went to preach from 8 a.m., they were there by 7. They were struggling. When I was finishing my message in the evening, they were still lining there. Now, the following day, news came that one man, as he was lining there, collapsed, fainted, and he died. What is this world? What is this world? But they tell you that if you live all alone, you will die. Even believers of the caliber of Judas Iscariot, they will grumble when you want to invest your life in that which is what? Eternal. Senior friends, they will call you aside. They say, you better be reasonable. Be reasonable. You know, I've seen those senior brothers, senior friends, over the years. Be reasonable. What bothers me is that after 20 years, they're still on the same spot. Why? The world system trapped them. I want to say to you, whether you have 30 years, or 20 years, or 50 years, or 60 years, what is it meant for? It is to be invested for your eternal home. Mary broke the box, poured it on Jesus, and Jesus said, yes, she has done the good work. Wheresoever this gospel shall be preached all over the world, this that she has done is a memorial for her. Heaven will keep remembering her. Amen. I'm asking you, where will you pour your own alabaster box? I have begun from this night to begin to now focus on laboring for eternity. Where are you pouring your own oil? I want you to ask basic questions. Whom are you serving with all your life? Are you living for mammon? Or are you living for that which is eternal? I am beginning to ask now, what will you be remembered for? What will heaven remember you for? I began to introduce a concept in the morning. I was talking about private Maybach. If there is a particular bag, according to what we read in the Bible, that is being kept in heaven for each one of us, can I find out from you, what have you deposited there? What have you deposited there? The world system will organize burial funerals for you. I don't know how the devil loves that. As soon as some little money is beginning to accumulate in your hand. Are you hearing me? Any one distant cousin that never knows where you are when you are struggling. As soon as money begins to come your hand, it is then they become your brothers. Does it also happen here? Then somebody will come and say, you know, my mother is the junior sister of the friend of your father on the mother side. Then you will start sponsoring burials. And I'm asking you, when will people not die? So Jesus met a man, he said, follow me. The man said, let me go and bury my father first. He said, let the dead be burying their dead. But you, go and do what? Go and preach the kingdom. I was wondering, how can the dead be burying their dead? It means there are some dead that are living. Are you understanding? So as far as Jesus is concerned, he sees men that are dead, but they are walking up and down. And he said, let them be doing that. That's their business. You go and do what? And preach the kingdom. I'm asking a question tonight because I'm about to bring this meeting to a conclusion for tonight in preparation for where we are ending it. We are ending this meeting tomorrow, but we are ending it on sending you forth with a focus to labor for what? Eternity. If you are a teacher, you teach mathematics or you teach geography, let me ask you a question. Why are you teaching geography? Why did God give you ability to teach geography? Why? I'm asking a question, why? So that you can invest it for eternity. I don't see a reason why you are a secondary school teacher if it is not in preparation for eternity. I wouldn't think of the reason why you are a medical doctor if it is not that God is giving you opportunity to be a doctor so that you can be positioned where you can begin to secure a correct place for yourself. Where? In eternity. I wouldn't know why you are in business if it is just what to eat. You say, but what is this man saying? I'm saying so. That if it is what to eat, are you hearing me? Fowls. That two of them are sold for less than a farthing. They are eating. And they are not dying. One day I was passing. You know, little things God used to help my own life. I have known a madman around where I live for several years. I'm surprised that intelligent people are falling sick. They are rushing them to hospital. These are people that are eating all the good food of ID. A madman never thinks of what will I eat tomorrow. But he's living. His people are praying for him to die, but he's not dying. A madman will go and lie on the road, asking a vehicle to kill him. What will all the vehicles do? They will be bypassing him. Now, here is a madman that wants to die. He's not dying. It is a university student who is desiring to live. That motor kills. What is all this? What is all this confusion? Or to show that if you know the devil, when the devil had made you foolish and useless, he's not interested in killing you. The devil is not interested in making you fall sick. Whatever you eat, you are all right. But when you want to invest your life on that which matters, he comes now bombarding you with fear. What will you eat? What will you eat? What was a madman eating? That for 20 years he's on the street and he never died. And yet we are not going to be mad. Hallelujah. We are going to be the servants of the Most High God. We are not going to be naked. God who clothes the lilies of the valley. He says Solomon in all his glory is not as clothed as those flowers. How much more you? Are you not of more value than the fowls? I ask you tonight before you pray with me, what are you investing your life into? This is a question I cannot allow you to gloss over. You must think now. You must ask this question straight ahead. What am I spending my life on? Ask this question. What am I spending my salary on? Please ask. Think of your salary and look at it very objectively. Ask yourself, what am I spending it on? You might be completely surprised that what you eat out of your salary is very little. But the foolish things that the devil arranges to continue to collect your salary every time, but you never think about it. There are some few people that as soon as money is coming to their hand, if they are going to collect salary tomorrow, somebody will be sick today. And I hear them say, we even thank God that my salary came. That's why God sent it, so that I can pay the hospital bill. You're a foolish guy. Until you sit back and say, what am I living for? Do you know that if today you are saying, today, Lord, my salary is for me to invest for eternity. That's the day those sicknesses that every month will start running away from you. They say, this man already knows why he's living. Even if we make him fall sick, we won't get money from him anymore. He will rather pray. He will rather call for the divine help from heaven. Let's leave him alone. Let's stop troubling him. He has known where he's going. Where and on what are you pouring your life? Do you know there are young girls here? You pour your affection on a strange man. You cook for him. You spend your time on him. You spend your thoughts on him. When he comes again, he uses you. When he finishes using you, he will put you aside. He go for another. He's like a grasshopper. He's jumping from one flower to another flower. Once they see any flower coming out of your life, they suck that one and go for another flower. Is that what you want to live for? Is that a reasonable way of living? What will heaven remember me for? Yes, I am not asking that if you are a secondary school teacher, you should stop teaching. But you must have a reason why you are teaching now. That reason has to be eternal. If it is not eternal, then you are a foolish man. May the Lord help you. Mary made a choice. Jesus said she has wrought a good work on me. She has done something that we will never forget her for. Praise the Lord. I put it to you. What are you pouring your life on? The children of this world, they are wiser than the children of light. Am I asking you? Are you going to be a foolish man? If you are not going to be foolish, you will not be foolish in the name of Jesus. As I draw this, I remember the last man I want us to look at. It's Brother Paul. Our brother raised about his story in the morning. But I just want you to see his own personal testimony. And we will just read a bit of that. No more talking. I think Brother Dennis raised his testimony in Philippians chapter 1 this morning. Did he raise something in Philippians 1? Verse 20 and verse 21. Can you remember? Can you remember? Let's read it again. Let's read it again. Philippians 1, 20, 21. Thank you, sir. In nothing I shall be ashamed. With all boldness, yes, in my body, whether it's by life or by death. For to me, to live is Christ, and to die is gain. Are you getting me? Excuse me, let's note here. Any life that you live in this world, and it is not an investment for eternity, what is it? It's a waste. You've wasted it. Anything you are interested in, but it has no bearing with eternity, my friend, you have wasted it. What I'm asking you to think now is that this intelligence that God gave me, how can I invest it for eternity? This thing I know how to do, how can I use it to influence my placement in eternity? That's the question. This business that I am in, this trading I am in, what can I do to make it count for the Lord in eternity? That's the question you are asking. Anything outside that will not be reasonable. Are you hearing me? Don't ever imagine that if God allowed you to be trained as an electrician, or as an electronic mechanic, or He allowed you to be trained as a medical doctor, or as a pharmacist, He was not wasting His time. Was God wasting His time? He wasn't. What was He doing? He was equipping you with something that you will have. To do what? To invest. For what? For eternity. How many students are here? Can I see your hand up now? Students. Oh, they are very sizable. Praise the Lord for students. Praise the Lord for you students. Congratulate a student around you and say, congratulations. Yes. You know why? You are young. You have not yet wasted your life. You have not yet been damaged. You have the prime of your youth. And I thank God that you are hearing this message now. I thank God that you are hearing what to do with what lies in your hand. This energy, this intelligence, this ability. What will you do with it? What will you do with it? Now that you are young, now that you are in your early or late teens or early 20s, congratulations. Congratulations. The man that wrote that song, Must I Go Empty-Handed? Do you know what happened to him? He was on his deathbed when he met Jesus. He gave his life to Christ, but the question now is, hey, I'm going to heaven without anything there. I have spent all my life in the flesh. So he composed a song. He said, it is not the fear of death that is making me to falter, but the thought of appearing before him empty-handed. That's what is troubling me. Must I go an empty-handed? Must I meet my Savior so? Not one soul with which to greet him. Must I empty-handed go? That was what worried him. And at his deathbed, the only thing he has now is the biro and the pen he had. He knew that everything is finished. And he said, I have just few hours left. And he wrote that song. And I don't know how many thousands and millions of people have been affected with what he did at his deathbed. And I do then know that he didn't go to heaven empty-handed. Do you know what he did? He used the last few hours of his life to secure a place in eternity. I put it to you. What are you doing with all the many years before you? I'm asking a question. I am saying you can be a businessman. Are you hearing me? But for what reason? Is this so that you can eat? Fowls, they don't spin. And they don't keep in barns. And none of them fell down of hunger. So there must be a different reason for being in business. Are you in business? In order to put it in this world, I'm telling you, you are what? A fool. As you are running up and down everywhere, what bothers me is that those who will consume it, they did not even know what you did to collect it. Am I right? They don't know. But if you are in business, it means God is giving you an opportunity to do what? To invest for eternity. And we need brothers whom God is calling to go and do business, because that's their own opportunity to invest in eternity. And God is calling intelligent people who will be in the university, so that while they are lecturing in the university, they are there for a purpose. There are other colleagues of theirs that are there just to work. But me, I am there because I'm preparing for eternity. So they take every opportunity to help somebody there. What will you do? Where are you breaking your alabaster box? One of the things I'm saying to you is that whether you break it or not, you will still break it somewhere. Do you know you are going to break your life somewhere? If you don't serve the Lord, you will serve the devil. And you will serve the world. You will serve things. If you don't serve him, you will serve things. As the Lord helps me and you tonight. Paul said to me, for me to live is what? Is Christ. That's a man that is focused. That's a man that had no other reason for living apart from Christ. I'll tell you a personal story. Can I tell you a personal story? When we were in school, in the university, I was the Bible study leader, secretary of the fellowship. So they asked me to prepare a Bible study. That was the change of my own life. I was preparing this Bible study, and the title I gave it was Living Only for Jesus. That Bible study got me into trouble. It got me into complete trouble. But I thank God that it was a good trouble. As I was reading, preparing the study, Philippians 1 verse 20 and 21 was the theme, was the memory verse that I chose. I don't know why I chose it. And as I'm reading Paul say, my earnest expectation. The only thing I'm expecting in my lifetime now is that Christ will be magnified in my body, whether by life or by death, and that I will do nothing to bring shame to myself nor to Christ. For to me, to live is Christ. The more I was preparing the study, the more I'm asking myself, so what are you living for? When I finished the Bible study, it took hours of crying because I'm now in trouble. So the people in the Bible study, in the pre-study, we were studying. When I began to study, everybody in the class started crying. They said, so what are we here for? What am I living for? Students were saying, what am I living for? What am I living for? We went to the general Bible class. The students that were to lead, they told me, say, Gbile, I can't teach what I have not practiced. So the Bible study classes was cancelled. They said, you are the only one who can teach it. You are the one who prepare it. Go and teach it. I knew I'm in trouble now. So I gathered the study. The meeting ended in shambles. People started crying. I've never seen such a very powerful hook on lies before. So I gathered the brothers and sisters that they said they want to walk with God. We went to a bush. I took the Bible study. I said, this is the study we are going to study now. We started 8 a.m. By 4 p.m., nobody could move. We were all crying. Then a brother stood up and asked me, if this is the truth, what are we living here for? The question became a matter. We looked at one another, we cried. That was the day. Let me tell you, that was the day I knew that whatever I get in the university is not for me. People got their salary, their scholarship. You know, they used to give us scholarship in those days and bursary. Something happened. A brother collected his bursary. He didn't open it. He came and dropped it. He said, it's not my money. I couldn't touch it. I thought it was tight, that I would be paying. But the question is, you, how can you take 9/10 and give the owner? Because the passage we read was that whosoever he be of you that does not forsake all that he has, he cannot be my disciple. We were looking at one another. A brother stood up and said, he is no more going to finish his degree. Because even when he finished, what will he do with it? He's going to serve the Lord now. I begged him. You know the irony of the matter? I begged this brother. I said, please don't leave the university. At least finish. When you finish and you get your degree, then we can drop it, go and serve the Lord. He said, no, yes. I begged him. He came back to finish his degree. This is more than 25 years. He has not left his job. I was regretting that I prevailed on him to finish his degree. Few years ago, he met me. He was still saying, Gbile, I know the call of God is on my life, but I don't want to make mistake. I felt like slapping him and saying, get away from here. Were you not the one that told me many years ago that you will not finish, and I begged you? So now, it has become too precious for you. So what are you getting? And what did he get? The world is using him thoroughly. When he's about to be promoted, they will send him somewhere again. Nothing. I met his wife one day. The wife is saying, brother, you know, I know that I'm supposed to be preaching to young people, but I don't have time, something. I say, if you die with excuses in your mouth, I don't know what will happen to you in eternity. Don't talk to me again. Because I knew what happened to us. I knew that there's no reason to be alive if not for Jesus. You know, I'm not talking to you about cosmetic now. I'm not asking you about surrender. Oh, you have been surrendering this thing for the past 10 years. If you have surrendered it, what do you have again to surrender? The truth is that you have never surrendered anything. On what are you pouring your life? On who are you pouring your life as a young person? All the opportunities that God has given you, what have you done with it? I'm checking what eternal record is saying about you, and it's looking generally vacant. I would like you to pray about this tonight. So Paul said in his own personal testimony, do you know what he said? In chapter 3 verse 7, he said, the things that were gained to me, what did I do now? I count them but loss, that I may win Christ. I counted them as combined loss and rubbish for the excellency of knowing Jesus Christ my Lord. These brothers are going to the same heaven. Are you with me? And I'm saying, oh God, if we are going to sit in the same heaven, intelligent people, they are throwing their lives in preparation for eternity. What do I want to do? I ask you tonight, what will you do with your life? We gave an altar call in the afternoon. You came out. I'm happy that you came out. But tonight, I want to ask you, don't come out. Don't come out. If it is that your usual coming out, we don't need it. We need to break from solemn assembly this year with a new crop of Christians that they rejoice at the spoiling of their goods because they know there's a better treasure in heaven for them. Young sister, I'm asking you, what's your life all about now? What's your life all about? If you ask, what is your life all about? You are not progressing in the world, but you are afraid to drop your life for Jesus. Are you not a fool? Are you not a fool? When I meet some young sisters, they are not married yet, and they are living as if the entire of their life depends on when they marry. They are doing nothing, they say, until when I settle. If you use 40 years of your life to settle, because the world system has said an unmarried sister is unsettled. Who said it? I'm asking you, who told you? Was Mary Slessor unsettled? I'm not hearing you. Could we forget Mary Slessor? Is it because she had children of her own? I'm not hearing you again. Why is Mary Slessor ever to be remembered? She invested her life for something eternal. It was last year I went to Scotland. And one of the greatest things that made me happy, I'll tell you. What was it? They gave me a Scottish pound. Somebody dashed me a Scottish pound. And fortunately for me, the picture on Scottish pound was Mary Slessor. And my mind jumped. I said, God. But Mary Slessor didn't live for the world. Why did they recognize her? Why did they put her picture on their money? And the answer that came to me is that the world system are happy to own Mary Slessor because she ventured to do something that no one else was willing to do. The country thought she served them because she had become important because of great things that God did through her. So they want to immortalize her name. But thank God that she didn't die for Scotland. She died for Jesus. So in my mind, it jumped on me again. I said, even if you live for me in this world, a stage is coming when the world system will look for reality and they will not find. And they will be seeking to honor you. And you will tell them that their honor is useless. I'm looking forward to that time. Are you hearing me? I'm looking forward to that time. It's going to happen in my lifetime. In my lifetime, the world system, they will say, we need to honor somebody who has been very, very consistent and who has influenced our nation and who has done this, done that, and they will nominate me. And I will have the privilege of writing them and say, thank you for considering me for such, but I have an honor that cannot be quantified. Politely, sir, give it to someone else. And then they will say, what manner of man is this that we want to honor? And he said he has a higher honor. Didn't my master come to that point? Did they not want to make him a king? I received letters some time ago from some people. They said, in their search, they have considered me as one of the prominent people who preaches righteousness and who has been consistent over the years. And in their council, they decided to honor me with a doctorate degree. They wrote, and I wrote them back. Thank you for considering me, but I do not need such honor. Give it to someone else. Thank you. They wrote back. They said, actually, we were afraid of proposing it because we know there is no correct man of God that would like to take such a thing. So the world system, they know something. We may be looking insignificant now. But if we are really insignificant, the world should have ignored us. But they cannot ignore us. They are afraid of people like us. They don't like people like us. Only one purpose, living only for Jesus in the light of eternity. People who are working hard and they are telling government, do you know I don't live on your salary? When all other workers are going on strike, he tests them in their trade union and said, do you know that I do not belong here? My life does not depend on what they pay or what they don't pay. I'm here because I need to affect people's lives. And they will look at you and they find that you are being fed, you are living correctly because your help does not come from the hills. It comes from above. Are we going to have people? And I want to ask you tonight, you don't go to sleep until you answer this question. What am I living for? You need to answer this question. What have you spent the last 50 years of your life doing? All the businesses that you have been doing, for what purpose? Is it only to eat? Then you are less than a fowl. Some say, but if I die, who will bury me? Look at your foolishness. If a man dies here now, does it concern him whether you bury him or not? Let me ask you, why do they bury a dead man? Is it for him? For who? It's for themselves. If you don't bury a dead man, you are just in trouble. Look, I just pray that you will understand this. People say, when he dies, they carried him to this village. The village rejected him. They carried him here. They rejected. I don't want my body to be like that when I die. That's why I want to build a house where they will bury me before I die. Foolish man. Foolish. Very foolish. The world system put importance on what is not important. Do you know that in some other countries, they don't have space to bury the dead? Do you know what they do? They will burn everything into ashes. And then they will get one small bottle, because they don't even have space for big bottle. Get one small bottle like this and put the remains. That's why they call it remains. Put a small of it and put it somewhere. And put a small label. Mr. So-and-so who died on so-so date. Christ! I want to live for something better. I want to spend and be spent for eternity. I want to I only want to use the barest minimum to be here on earth. Every other junk of my life, it must be invested for heaven. If it does not have heavenly bearing, it's useless. It's a waste. Brother Paul said, all that was gained to me, I count them but dung, that I may win Christ. That's the kind of man we're talking about. They were focused. He wrote the Corinthian people. He said, that which is seen is temporal, but that which is not seen is eternal. So this light affliction, I was saying light affliction, to him is little, because there's a joy set before them. Permit me to ask you tonight, Don't rush to come to the altar tonight. If you are coming, you must be coming with a clear understanding that so today, maybe you came out in the afternoon and we are talking about living all. But this night, you are saying, it means if I'm earning salary, it's for the kingdom of God. Amen. Amen. If I will go on to do more business, it's not for anything else. For who? It's for the kingdom of God. If I'm a teacher, it's for the kingdom of God. If I'm a sewing mistress, what is it for? For the kingdom of God. But I want to assure you, can I give you an assurance? My God shall supply all your needs according to his riches in glory. I told you I was crying and crying when we were confronted in that Bible study week. I remember crying in the bush, put my hand on the leg and say, oh God, my own is finished. My own is finished. I cried. When people were congratulating me as I was going to be a copper, they say, you will begin to earn salary now. They didn't know why I cried again. I cried. I said, salary for what? Money that I cannot spend. As my colleague were excited, they are looking for their salary. I couldn't. I knew that this money doesn't belong to me now. It belongs to the Lord. When the money comes, I drop it. I said, Lord, that's your money. Give me my own daily bread. It's amazing that he has provided my daily bread ever since. So I said, so why was I working? The question came, why was I working? Because you are always meeting my need. He said, you are not working to eat. You are working in that place because I want you to be there for my sake. My understanding changed. I'm working just to be there for Jesus. I praise the Lord. And I want to assure you that ever since, it never disappoints me one day. It never disappoints me one day. Since I joined the army of the Lord, he never disappoints me one day. He has never, and he will never. And I'm talking not of 2 years. This is how I am before I married. And this is how we have been ever since I married. And God has kept our lives. He has given children, and the children are doing their own things, and they are growing, and they are living. And we have been doing like that. So I don't know why you are afraid. I'm asking you tonight. Mary broke her own, poured it on Jesus. Paul counted his own as rubbish, poured it on Jesus. Peter he said, we have left all. They poured it on Jesus. Several others, contemporary of our age, poured their lives and poured it on Jesus. Doctors poured their lives on Jesus. Intelligent people poured their lives for eternity. Why are you holding your? Let's ask a question. For whom are you keeping this ointment? For whom? Do you know why Mary broke her own? There are other sisters that kept their own. Am I right? So, after Jesus died, 3 days after, they now gathered their own perfume to go and do what? To anoint a dead body. When they got there, did they meet him? It's finished. They had oil to give. The master was not available to do what? to collect it anymore. It can be late. What did I say? Even your service can be late. Eternity is so close, but you can be too late to invest in it. Let's ask questions tonight. On what am I pouring my life? Is there somebody here who has been disappointed by a young man? I see you crying. I don't know. My brother Chooks, that we did like that, that we did like that. May God help Chooks to disappoint you much more. Until the world disappoints you, how will you face eternity? That's the same Chooks that didn't allow you to consider what God had been saying to you. I put it to you tonight. On whom are you pouring your oil? And if you have not poured it, for whom are you keeping it? Some of you are sitting down here. You have treasures that you are laying up. I want you to build houses in your village. Oh. If it is reasonable. If it's useful. If your mother is living there. If your junior brothers and cousins, if they need a place. If you need to give them a sense of direction. Build there if God gives you a chance. But if you are only building what you will lock up. For cockroach. Reconsider your investment. Reconsider where you are going. Ask the Lord, how do I live my life? New Testament Christians, they saw the glory. They poured their all. Barnabas saw the glory. What did he do? He sold all that he had. Did Barnabas die of hunger thereafter? No. He actually grew on. He became one of the noted apostles. He moved from one strength to another. They didn't die of hunger. Ask this question tonight. For whom am I reserving my oil? On whom am I pouring it? And for what am I investing it? But I want to pray with you tonight. I want to say, Father, living and laboring for eternity, I want to step into it. I want to step into it. And I want to live for a meaning. I want to be remembered for an eternal purpose. May the Lord help you. May the Holy Spirit grant you illumination now. We're at a critical point of choice. And God is laboring over your heart and saying, my son, your lifetime is meant for an investment. What are you doing with it? Don't let the children of this world become wiser than you. Do something tangible tonight. Stand up with me as we pray together. We want to be real. We want to be very real. Father, we want to be very, very obedient. We want to move from the level of hearer to the realm of doers. Even the problem of struggling with sin is because we are available for mundane things. Tonight, Father, I want you to do a work in this meeting. I'm asking the Holy Ghost to bring an increase to this meeting. I'm pleading with you, Lord, that there will be a quick opening of our spirit and of our heart. That in this hour of prayer, we will have made a choice that is eternal. It was Deborah that challenged Reubenites. He said, what are you doing? Listening to the bleating of the flocks. And you did not come to the help of the Lord against the mighty. She wrote, he said, curse ye Meroz. Curse them with bitter tears. Because they did not come to the help of the Lord against the mighty. Lord, I plead tonight that those that have listened to your word and they have listened to the Holy Ghost, bring them to a point, not of casual decision, but a point where they are saying, if I live for any other length of time beyond tonight, it will be for eternity. They are saying, if I have another chance to go a little longer in life, it is to invest for my eternal choice. So, Holy Ghost, will you give increase to this meeting? Will you please lay your hand on lives that the enemy is trying to waste? Lives that in their youth they could have covered much ground, but they are being diverted left and right. Holy Spirit, they have not known the provision of heaven because they are clinging to the broken systems of the earth. Will you please, in your mercy tonight, will you please open our spirit? We do not depend on what human beings can do. We don't depend on our tears. We don't depend even on what we say we are going to do. We want to depend on what the Holy Ghost will accomplish here tonight. Father, please come and walk in our midst. In the name of Jesus.